Hey, what's up guys, Naam here. I know in the past couple of days, since I've released a video that talked about the stimulus check and unemployment benefits, I have been receiving so many questions. Like honestly, I'm trying to reply to as many questions as I possibly can, but in this video, I try to gather up all the most frequent questions that I've been getting asked and try to put it in this video and explain it to the best way that I possibly can so you guys can understand what's going on. Recently, there has been some updates to the IRS website since I posted my last video. So if you haven't already, go check out that video first because most of your questions will probably be answered when you watch that video. But in this video, I want to briefly go over what is the newest benefits on the IRS website and what they mean to you. I will also go over some of the most common questions concerning the stimulus check and also the unemployment benefits. So at the making of this video, the most latest update from the IRS was on March 30th. So far, a lot of people are concerned about when they may receive the check. There's also been other numerous news sources that said it could take up to 12 weeks before you can receive it, but the IRS has recently confirmed it. They said that the stimulus checks will begin sending out in 3 weeks. Just keep in mind that this is when they will begin. This does not necessarily mean you will receive it in 3 weeks. It could be 3 weeks, it could be 6 weeks, or it could be 9 weeks. But this is what I think. Since most things are done automatically and electronically nowadays, it should be relatively fast, and I would imagine you should receive it by the end of the month. Because when you really think about it, there's not going to be an IRS agent who checks millions and millions of people individual information before they start sending out these checks. There's going to be an automated system, and the people who already filed their taxes for 2019 or 2018 will most likely receive their checks first. So even at the making of this video, there was some new news that came out towards seniors. So originally, they thought that seniors had to file taxes as well. So most recently on April 1st, they said that any senior who's already receiving Social Security benefits, they will receive a stimulus check through the mail or through the bank account, typically how they receive their benefits automatically. There's nothing that they have to do. The IRS has also addressed another question that I was receiving a lot, was how would they receive the stimulus check? Because I had a lot of questions from people who are worried that they may not receive the check because their direct deposit information was inactive or they don't use that bank anymore. Finally, the IRS has cleared this up. So for the majority of people who already filed their taxes, there's nothing that you guys have to do. I repeat, there's nothing that you guys have to do. You would receive it automatically. The IRS will also be the ones who calculates everything, and they would automatically send you the check if you're eligible. So for people who already filed their taxes for 2019, this will be the most updated information that the IRS will have, so they would use that to calculate your payment amount. And if you haven't filed this year's taxes yet, might as well get that started because there has been a 90-day extension for all tax returns, so there's plenty of time to get this done. But if you're not able to, the IRS will start sending out checks using the 2018 tax information. But what they say here can also be kind of confusing because they said that the payment will be directly deposited into the same bank account that was reflected on the return. Because I have been receiving a lot of questions about having incorrect information on the 2018 taxes. So the IRS has also answered this question for me. They said within the upcoming weeks, the Treasury will plan to develop a web-based portal for individuals to provide updated banking information online. So by doing this, people are able to receive payment immediately as opposed to the check in the mail. So if any of you guys out there are stressed about how to receive your check, the IRS is planning to come up with the web-based portal so you can update the information as soon as possible. So hopefully this clears up about how to update your banking information. But with that being said, since they are trying to develop this web portal for those who haven't filed their taxes yet for 2019, I imagine there are going to be some delays to your stimulus check. The best thing that you can do right now is to file your 2019 taxes if you haven't already, because this will be the most current information that the IRS will have. For those who already filed their 2019 taxes, but your direct deposit information is incorrect when you filed, this is where it may get a little messy. Because I imagine that the IRS will continue to try to send out your stimulus check through the most recent information. You still can update the information in the web portal once it's up and running, but I imagine there will be some delays. Because when you really think about it, if they were to send you that check, this will be a problem that they will probably have to look into manually, and it may take longer to receive that check. So for all the people who haven't filed a tax return in 2018 or 2019, you can still receive the stimulus check. The IRS even urges anyone with a tax filing obligation who has not filed any taxes for any of those years to file as soon as possible so you can receive your check. It seems like the IRS is stressing this so much. So the sooner you can file your taxes, the quicker you will get your stimulus check. The IRS also addresses a situation where people may not know how to file their own taxes and they may have to talk to a tax professional. So technically, you can still receive the check much later in the year, up to December. But when you really think about it, the majority of people who need the stimulus check, they need it right away. For those who have more complicated taxes to be filed, I would try to communicate with your tax professional or accountant via phone or something like that so you can get this done as soon as possible. And this is really only for those who really need the money as soon as possible, because if you can wait months from now, then you can see a tax professional after the pandemic clears up, so you can do that as well. So that's the most recent updates with the stimulus check. I'll also post the IRS website in the comments below, so you guys can check it for yourself for the most current information. Now I'm going to be talking about all the questions I have been receiving about the stimulus check and also unemployment. I know there's been a lot of questions that have been asked on my previous video, and I'm honestly trying to answer as many as I possibly can. I spend hours researching on your specific questions so I can answer them. So if you guys can do a favor for me, is try to watch as much of this video as you possibly can. Even though the questions don't even apply to you, you can put it on mute and just fast forward it like 2x or something like that. But that's all I'm asking. But now let's get into it. So Jay Solo, he asks, if I owe child support and behind on payments, for those who owe, will I still get a check? Based on what I researched, if you're backed up on child support or if you owe child support, the stimulus check will go towards the child support first, and if there's anything left over, you'll receive whatever is left. But to figure out what is left over, I imagine there will be some delays for you to get the rest of the stimulus check. But if you're someone who's up to date with all of your payments, then yes, you will still be eligible to receive the stimulus check. So the next question I have is by Julian Daniel. He asks, if I have a newborn, how would they know I have a newborn? So I'll imagine he's asking if the IRS knows if you had a newborn or not. So if you had a newborn this year, you would most likely get a tax credit when you file your 2020 taxes, since it will be based off your adjusted gross income and your dependents of 2019. So that will reflect on how much you can receive. So unfortunately, you're not going to be able to get the $500 this year, but you're probably able to get the tax credit next year. Hopefully this helps. So the next question is by Fletcher Balino. He asks that he filed his 2019 taxes recently. He owes the IRS money, but he doesn't have any money to pay for them right now. But they also know his bank information. Will they use that, or they will send a check through the mail? So Fletcher, you can receive the $1,200. So if they have your banking information on file, you will receive it via direct deposit. But if you opt out for the check version, you would just receive it through the mail. And also with the stimulus bill, you do not have to pay this money back. All right, so next up, I'm gonna move towards unemployment questions, because I think with the most recent updates with the IRS stating who will receive the $1,200 check, I think that answered most of the questions I had previously about senior citizens and people who are on Social Security. The thing about unemployment benefits is that it's a $600 extra per week on top of state benefits. The intention of the $600 are for people who became unemployed, the hours cut, temporarily laid off, or furloughed to receive these benefits. But based off my research, it seems like anyone who's already on unemployment, even before the companies and businesses were shutting down, they would still qualify for the extra $600. But again, I must reiterate, this was meant for people who cannot work due to this pandemic. Alright, so now let's move on to some questions. So the first question I'm going to address is about what if my company is paying me from a catastrophic fund, or I was laid off, or I got fired from a job and I got a severance check. So in this situation, you would be 100% eligible to receive unemployment and also the extra $600 a week. So my next question is from Joe Cunningham. He asked, he recently moved to Kentucky from Alabama back in October of 2019, and he was employed there the whole time until he got a new job in Kentucky, and he's making the same amount. He's asking if he's eligible for the extra $600 a week since he only lived in Kentucky for 6 months. So if you do become unemployed, I would still go through the state of Kentucky to apply for unemployment benefits. And if you do get approved for the unemployment, you should also receive the extra $600 a week. So unless Kentucky has some weird rules, like you have to live there for a certain amount of time to be considered a resident, I would go ahead and apply to Alabama since you're previously living there and employed there as well. I know this could be a little bit confusing since you're moving in between all this stuff happening, but go with Kentucky first, then Alabama second. Hopefully this helps. The next question is from Jason Leonard. He asked that he got laid off on January 1st and he's been collecting unemployment ever since. Will he receive the extra $600 a week? So I have been receiving most questions about this, whether or not you would be receiving the extra $600 a week if you were already receiving unemployment that's not related to this pandemic. I've heard conflicting sources as well. So according to the New York Times, they said that if you were collecting unemployment prior to January 27th, you would not get it. So after researching different states' websites, say for instance Washington, they said that if you were receiving unemployment previously, you would still be considered to get the $600 a week. But the whole intention of the $600 a week is for those who were laid off or their job was affected by this pandemic. From what I researched on individual state websites, they said that anyone who is on unemployment will receive $600 as well. So the next question is, can I get the extra $600 a week if I'm a freelancer or a gig worker or self-employed or someone who works for Uber or something like that? Because normally in most states, these type of individuals who are independent contractors or self-employed, they typically don't receive unemployment benefits. So if you have any type of proof of income, like your 1099, this will make you eligible for the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, which is the formal name for the extra $600 a week. So you probably won't receive any money from the state, but you should be eligible to receive that $600. But again, this comes down to proof. But if you started working this year and you haven't received your 1099s yet, because this will be applicable for next year, it may be kind of difficult to actually show proof of income. It may work, so it just depends on your state, so just apply anyways. So my next question is concerning the stimulus check and also unemployment. One person asked, if I get the $1,200 stimulus check, will that be counted as income because this will cause a cut to their unemployment? And to answer that, it will be no. This is just money that the government gave you, so your unemployment will be unaffected by this. Another question that I have been receiving a lot is that I can't apply for unemployment. The lines are always busy, the website is always crashing. What happens then? How do I get my money? So if you're in this situation and you're unable to get through the lines or file online, the best bet is just to keep trying because there's really no way around this, because as of right now, the whole country is in lockdown and most likely you won't be stepping foot into a social service center, so everything has to be electronically done or through the phone. As soon as you can file for unemployment, you receive back pay from the state's benefits side, but as for the $600 side, this one is kind of like mixing the air because from different state websites, they said that you will get retroactive pay from the $600 as well up until July 31st. I know I answered a bunch of questions in the comments previously about how you would not receive retroactive pay for the $600, but after taking a look at different states' websites for unemployment, they said that you will receive retroactive pay for the $600 up to a certain date. Most likely is like March 29th or 30th. That's whenever the bill was signed. So you would still receive retroactive pay for your state benefits, but for the federal $600 a week, you would receive retroactive pay up to the day the bill was signed or whatever the state agreed upon. The next common question that I've been receiving is that, is the $600 going to be coming from the state or the federal government? The $600 a week is being funded by the government, but it's going to be the state who's going to be giving out this money to the people. States like Florida, whenever you apply for their state unemployment, if you're eligible, you receive the $600 from them. Because when you think about it, the state will have a better idea of who's on unemployment. So that's why the federal government is handing over the state the money so they can disperse the money for them. One question people have been asking is that if unemployment has to be repaid. Unemployment doesn't have to be repaid, but depending on where you live, you probably will get taxed. Most states do offer an option to pay 10% of your unemployment upfront just for tax purposes. Just double check of where you live to see if you will be taxed. With the $600 a week stimulus bonus, I imagine that it will probably be taxed too, since unemployment benefits are usually taxed depending on the state. So just double check with your state to see if your unemployment is taxed or not. Another question that person asked me is that if my hours been cut and I'm working less days now, can I still apply for unemployment and still receive the $600 a week? So to answer that, you're still eligible to apply for unemployment, and depending on the state that you live in, they could give you a certain amount based on your lost income. So with the extra $600 a week, you can still receive that up until the end of July 31st, or until you go back to working full-time again. As a side note, I just wanted to mention that you can only receive the $600 a week up to the end of July 31st, as of right now, unless it changes later on. But to receive this, you must be on unemployment. Unless something miraculously happens and you go back to working on May 1st, and now you're working full-time now, at that time, you should be discontinuing your unemployment, or you will have to pay that money back, and you probably get hit with some fines or charges or something like that. So once you start working at your normal job again, you will stop receiving the $600 a week. This doesn't go on for the whole 4 months, even though you're getting back to your full-time job. So hopefully this is clear enough. Another question that people have been wondering about is that how soon can I receive the $600 a week? And again, it really depends on where you live. As of right now, like in New York or New Jersey, you're going to be receiving the $600 a week by April 5th or within a week. Other states may take longer, but you should be able to get retroactive pay up to the date, which is like March 29th or 30th or something like that. But the key here is that the sooner that you can apply for unemployment, the sooner you're going to get processed and the sooner you can get money. So I'm still getting a lot of questions and comments, even after making this video. So Christopher R asks, I have overpayment on my unemployment benefits account. We also get unemployment benefits. So if you still qualify for unemployment, they will just deduct that amount from your payout. There are other cases where they deduct like a certain percentage, but if you like If your overpayment is due to fraud, then you won't get anything and you'll just have to pay that back. Here's a question by Thomas. He asks that he's currently unemployed, but that has nothing to do with this current pandemic. He filed for unemployment in December, and I mentioned earlier that anybody who's on unemployment at this time, they will get the extra $600 a week, and their unemployment will also be extended and also another 13 weeks, okay? All right, so here's a question that's a little bit more complex. So here's a question that's by Christine Lucas. She says that her husband had to leave his job because someone was exposed to the illness, and he couldn't risk bringing it home since she has a lot of this chronic diseases. Would he still be able to get unemployment? The thing about unemployment is that it really depends on a state to see what you qualify for. Because if you quit your job, most of the time you do not qualify for your unemployment unless you quit your job for certain reasons. Due to being scared of this pandemic and plus the risk of getting contracted because you don't want to infect your loved ones, that's kind of like a gray area. Because if you left your job because it was dangerous there or it was unsafe, then 100% sure you would probably receive unemployment. Just due to the risk of possibly like inflicting this type of disease, it's really hard to say if you will qualify for unemployment or not. Sorry, I wish I could answer this better for you. All right, so here's a question about Guadalupe. This one is a little bit more specific. She says that what about people who are looking for jobs this year? Obviously, of course, it's hard to find jobs right now. She wanted to apply for a job in the mall, but since stores are closed right now, can she qualify for unemployment benefits? Based on what I read and what I understand is that for current job seekers right now, like people who just graduated college and they're trying to find jobs, they do not qualify for unemployment. Each state has their own checklist of what qualifies you as unemployment. If you weren't employed before, most likely you won't get unemployment. And this really goes for people who really haven't had a job previously. But if you had a job before, but you're trying to find a new job right now, it's still a possibility that you may get unemployment because of this whole situation. If that was the case, I would just apply for unemployment just to see. All right, there was a question that I answered, but I'll mention it anyways. If you were on disability or Social Security, does that count you as unemployment? Unfortunately, you will not qualify for unemployment because you weren't previously working and laid off due to this pandemic. So here's another question by Lex and Chev Daily. It said that my job is doing this work share program where a certain amount of days your employer pays you, then other days you get paid from unemployment. Do you still qualify? Since you're already on unemployment, you do qualify for the extra $600. Iron Trek 96 asks, is the $600 on top of what you already get weekly? It's $600 a week on what you get right now weekly until July 31st or until you go back to work again and working full time. So that's when this will last. Another question I've been getting a lot is that how do I get the $600? Like, where do I apply? The only place that you can apply is with your state unemployment. So if you get approved for the unemployment through the state, you would most likely get the $600. Even though if you are a gig worker or self-employed, you may not get the benefits from the state, but you will still qualify for the $600. So your best bet is just to apply for unemployment through the state. So 516 Spark, he says that this video isn't informative one bit. Sorry, man, I tried. Hopefully this video helped you guys out a lot. I think I answered a lot of the most common questions that I have been asked. I'm still trying to answer as many questions as I possibly can, even with the making of this video, because each individual question is sort of specific towards that person. So if you still have questions, continue to ask them. Leave the questions down in the comments below in this video or the other video, and I try to get to them as fast as I can. If you guys found this information helpful, that'd be much appreciated if you guys could give this video a like or a comment or just subscribe, because this will get this video to a much larger audience who may not know how to get their benefits or about the whole situation. If you guys want to learn more about personal finance, come hang out with me some more over here.